What is going on out there, peeps? Not that long ago, we did an interview with Gunther Sonnenfeld, and it was an awesome interview. If you want to see the full interview, go to Pimpy's News Network and check it out. The link is down below in the description. But I do want to pull out a part of the interview that I know interests everybody. We're going to talk about the QFS system. It's been talked about in the NESARA GESARA arena for a long time. So I will take the part of the interview out. We did show a teaser of it, but I'm going to go ahead and play the full portion of Gunther going over the QFS system and share it with you guys. Before we get started, if you could do me a favor and just hit the thumbs up button, the like button that is. This helps us get past the YouTube algorithms. And if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it.
Hey, look, I want to talk about this Amber Lolly product again. Whenever something good comes along, I do want to talk about this. My neck, I had a kink in my neck from hell, and the pain was, it gets to the point where you get headaches. So I just grabbed the cream and I rubbed that crap on the back of my neck. After a while, you don't even realize that the pain is gone. You're just going, and how we are several hours later, and I'm still, there's no pain. And it works really quick. I like that. So joint pain and muscles, sore muscles, nice. And then here's the thing about me. I get offered all the time. People want to come on, they want to be sponsors, they want to be this. My thing is, if I don't use your product, I'm not interested. You know, I can sell out everything and make a ton of money, but no, you know, my subscribers to me are very important. But this product here, absolutely, I'm going to endorse this. I like it a lot. AmberLolly.com.
Hey folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings and their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to Moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to Moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation. So head on over to Moneymetals.com and buy gold and silver. That's right, you could personally own it and have it. And keep in mind, if you spend more than $100 on your first purchase, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. For those of you looking for my address, there it is right here. You guys know I have this alternative website. I encourage you guys to go check it out, because over here we do have videos that I cannot play on YouTube and videos that have been banned from YouTube. All proceeds go to finding life's purpose. Be careful from people trying to scam you, posing as me. Whenever I reply to your comment, there will be a black circle or a gray circle around my name. If there is no circle or shade around my name, then it's not me. I will not be sending you to WhatsApp or Telegram or Telegraph or anything like that asking you for money. From time to time, I will use material that is considered copywritten. I am just posting this to let you know that I am exercising my fair use rights.
And now it's time for the Doc and Pimpy Show with your host, Doc, and the man who should be committed, Pimpy.
Welcome to the Doc and Pimpy Show. I'm Pimpy, and that man over there is Doc.
Doc.
Just said today. We have a very special guest today, and I can't tell you how excited I am about having him on the show. We're going to let Doc go ahead and introduce him because his resume is literally about the size of a novel. So Doc has figured out a way to summarize it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is, we're going to introduce you to Gunther Sonnenfeld, is the co-founder and CEO of Rare Technologies, Inc., partner at Novena Holding Group, and co-founder of a flagship nonprofit foundation called the Change Up Project, which he is developing with his life partner, Erica, in order to help troubled youth cultivate life skills and become active leaders in their communities. Additionally, He is the founding board member of
Abiogenesis.
and he also serves as the co-chair of Applied Regenerative Economic Institute. What a guy.
Gunther, sir, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Gunther, in the YouTube spheres, I guess the best way to put it, you have different subjects in which there's groups of people. Some of them are competitive, speaking about different subjects. And where me and you started talking at first was there's, in our arena, you have the people that are the QAnon people, you call them conspiracy what. Then you have the NESARA, GESARA movement people.
Yeah.
And I got pulled into the NESARA, GESARA just because I said, for some reason, and this is the truth, and I proved it to everybody, somehow, some way, my student loan was paid off. And part of this movement is all your debt will be forgiven. Well, then everybody's like, oh, that's NESARA, GESARA. So I started looking into this thing, and it really has a bunch of arms, some of them really way out in left field, and some of them down to earth. So I try to avoid getting into that, we're all clones and, the 17 miles of gold. I'm like, no, we're not eating popcorn and stuff like that. Stop. But one of the subjects that gets brought up all the time is the quantum financial system. And I read an article that you wrote, and out of all the things I've heard or read about the QFS system, yours was laid out perfectly. And I said, I have got to get a hold of this man. And so then when I started doing my research into you, I was like, okay, so he talks about a lot of subjects that I absolutely like. But me and you spoke about this, and you wanted to come aboard and kind of clear some things up about the QFS system. So if you don't mind, please, if you could just help clear some of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, the QFS is it's not one thing, right? So it was given this designation because a bunch of basically central banks and private banks, mostly private banks, to be honest with you, were developing a new cross-border interbank payment and settlement system, right? Which you see right here. So the QFS is not one thing at all. There's a lot of different people working in quantum computing, quantum computation. Those are different things. I'm going to show you what I mean by that a little bit later. There's central bank groups, which we've touched and worked with on some level. There's private banking groups we've worked with. So in a nutshell, what people are considering the QFS right now is basically an improvement on the SWIFT system.
Yes.
And you probably noticed that back in January or February, SWIFT was operating at about 20% capacity. So if you were trying to send payments over $10,000 from one bank to another bank, you probably experienced some difficulty with that, which is not to say that it's always kind of a pain in the ass to send wire transfers, but it was pretty pronounced starting at that time. So there has been a switchover, and it's not a white hat or a black hat thing. It's not specific to the cabal, although there's private banking groups that are doing their monkey business and all that stuff. But the QFS is not a thing. It is a bunch of components that are all being developed in different ways, which is great because there's not one governing authority over this.
Sure.
There's not one oversight group. Anybody who says that that's the case, I can just tell you from experience, I mean, I could be wrong, but I've never heard some of these names being bandied about in the circles that I run in.
May I just kind of throw what's being said out there? So we have a YouTuber out there claiming to be on the board of directors, and that you can't use the QFS system unless you are in G4, G5, D4, D5, consciousness, because God is in control of this and he has a switch, and you can't benefit from this and get your free money from the government. Or unless you buy some Chinese gold-backed bonds. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be serious about this because this is the nonsense that's going out there. You have one group of people selling old, ancient Chinese bonds, claiming that the gold-backed real bonds you have to have in order to get into the system Also, you have to be at your conscious level. You have to be D4 or D5, or the QFS system doesn't read you and you don't get your free money from the government. These are the types of nonsense that are going on out there, just so you're aware.
Yeah, no, I don't pay attention to it, but I can only imagine. There's other people that say that, I don't know, I've heard there's a woman out there who claims to be the successor to, who is it? It's not Morduk. It's I don't know.
With the magic codes, is that the one?
Who?
There's like a lady, well, you have a few people. You got Mike Contrella, who's on Mark Z's show, claiming that he owns these codes, that if he puts them in, it releases the blessings to everybody. You have a woman claiming to have the same kind of codes. Do you see what, this is what happens out there in this YouTube.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, the successor to Morduk, apparently, that kind of stuff. Look, honestly, I'm not suggesting, this is a whole nother conversation. I've had experiences with entities and other things like that.
Sure.
The supernatural world definitely exists.
Oh yeah.
There are what people would consider to be alien entities around. I mean, that military people will tell you that that's indisputable. People in the Air Force, people in high-level military intelligence.
Oh, it's coming out now.
So that all exists. But the thing is, anybody who's making claims like this about a quantum system it's a psyop, and they're out of their mind, because, I mean, unless I'm totally, out of touch with reality here, I mean, these names have never been bandied about in the circles that I run in and that I work with. And I'm not saying I've worked with everybody, but God, I don't know. We've touched these projects with our own hands. I mean, it's just fantasy.
But here's my concern about what's going on out there in YouTube and with all these wackadoos saying their stories. You have them selling products that they say can help them or protect them.
Yeah.
We know of people who have committed suicide based on dates and promises that were made by these people. That's when I said, look, I'm familiar with who they are. I've did interviews with them, but I usually, like, whatever they do, that's their business on their show. But when people started dying, then I had to come out and, unfortunately, speak against them, because it's like, look, stop, stay grounded, just take a step back and apply common sense here. Because if this was the case, this would happen. But it's unfortunate. So I'm glad to have you come aboard and talk about the QF system, is what you know about that.
The reality-based.
Reality-based.
Look. There's a lot of different components. There is a capability to do a photonic transfer of payments in either settlement form that operate at a $3.5 trillion bit rate, which basically exceeds the speed of light. I mean, that is based on entanglement principles that are quantum physics based. There's quantum computation, and I'll show you what that looks like. I've been involved in this for a long time. That exists, right? And I know even the term quantum has been sort of hijacked. Like, there's people like Cliff High, who I love. Cliff is amazing. But he says, quantum doesn't really exist. I think what he's saying is that it's just a term that's bandied about. But these things really exist in the physics realm, in the scientific realm, in the mathematical realm, and they're very real. And, if you understand nonlinear factorization as one example, that quantum computation, and I'm not talking about processing, I'm talking about computation, can bypass pretty much any form of encryption. So we're aware of this. And even though we're in the blockchain space building sort of the next generation of encrypted product solutions, we're very well aware of where the technology needs to go next. And I've been working on all that stuff to anticipate these changes.
Sure.
So the basics of this is you want the capability of quantum speed in processing, and at once you want what's called a quantum resistant mechanism to slow down the transactions in a way where hackers can't get in, but whereby you can actually take inventory of that instance of that transaction, hash it, decrypt it, and at an autonomous level allow people to transact. Most of the cross-border interbank settlement payments, all the stuff that you see the big banks doing is highly centralized. It doesn't account for any of that stuff. There's all sorts of nuances that they're not accounting for either with assets. I mean, they're basically pushing paper around in a digital form. Okay, fine, but that doesn't change anything, right?
Sure.
They're not mixing and matching treasuries or physical assets. So there's a lot of things that are not accounted for in the design of these systems, which are very good for us because it means that the majority of us who are either contracted to build these things or building them independently as entrepreneurs can forge down those paths and build what will ultimately result in a decentralized infrastructure. And we're quickly moving towards that, which is great. But I would not worry about a single QFS and a single QFS authority and central bankers taking over. There's all sorts of reasons why I think they've already failed. And I'm speaking mechanically about this, right? Not hypothetically, not ideologically. They are way, way behind the curve. They just don't have our capabilities. And that's the bottom line. I would not worry about a one world currency. I would not worry about digital passports. I mean, everything that you're seeing right now with QFS, the Great Reset, you know, all of that stuff, COVID, is a movie playing backwards, essentially.
Oh, you'll tickle a lot of my followers. They hear we're just watching a movie, Pimpy. I'm like
upside down.
Yeah.
So
you're right. And look, in terms of military intelligence and private military intelligence and all that stuff, you have to remember about 80% of all government services as one layer are outsourced to contractors, private contractors like us or other people. We don't do a lot of government work. I don't anymore, but you know, it's mostly outsourced. Then you have private corporate, you know, layers of intelligence. Sure. And that includes people like the SIS, who I know. These are private elite special forces. What I'm getting at is you have an apparatus of military and intelligence groups that are very well advanced, that don't adhere to a specific, you know, political party or mindset or any of that stuff. And everybody's just trying to figure out how to do the right thing. And there's bad actors in the mix.
Sure.
But the deep state actors, for example, are a small microcosm compared to the totality of people that are developing solutions. You just don't hear about it because they don't know. We don't own the news outlets. We don't,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's a very small special interest group that's controlling the flow of information. And then, of course, anything that's leaked through agencies like the CIA, I mean, who cares? Like, they don't build it. They don't fucking build anything. Yeah. I mean, they've got In-Q-Tel and other stuff. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely some entrenched connections to the FANGs, you know, Google, Apple, Facebook, and all that. But that's all. That shit's all going away. And there's people in Silicon Valley who we know who are going right after those guys because they want to do something different. You know, so this is not some highly coordinated, you know, communist conspiracy that's going to see the light of day. It's already failing in our faces.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to, whatever grip they thought they have, it appears we are slipping through this. But because now you did bring up something that you're going to help ease my concerns. It was the CBDC, which is I tell everybody the CBDC I'm concerned about. We want to resist that as much as possible. It's you know, them controlling our currency 100%. It's 100% digital. I know they're allowing cryptocurrencies out there, but my fear is once they feel like everybody's adapted to cryptocurrencies, then they're just going to shut it down and force everybody into the central bank digital currency.
Not going to happen.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a direct example.
Please.
So we worked with briefly a group that actually designs the infrastructure for CBDCs around the world. They had piloted the Bahamian sand dollar, and they were working on about 38 other projects. 12 of them were in the process of approval. The net is this, and these guys were financed by a very big, let's call it a Venetian family.
Okay.
with a Venetian name. I'm not going to name that name. Okay. But that was their financier. And they were lovely guys. I mean, I really liked the guys. You know, they were good Canadians, really. I'll leave it at that. But here's the net. Okay. The infrastructure was fairly elegant, but just the approval process alone, they're years away. And you got to remember, the central bankers in particular, they're basing everything on monetary theory, and that's not where everything is headed. We're headed towards assets and asset autonomy, and you know, even from a technological perspective, they don't have a grasp on where things are going. So it's not to say
NFTs, is that what you're talking about?
What's that?
Are you talking about NFTs?
Yeah, we'll
you said
get
assets.
to that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get to all that
Sure.
stuff. So the bottom line is the CBDCs are designed really more for interbank settlements. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like a way to accelerate reverse repoing and stuff like that. But they're basically playing with their own monopoly money in the form of cloning. And then the settlement portion of it, it's almost like a clearinghouse for interbank debt. That's all it really is. That doesn't really affect the rest of us. It's really a mechanism more for them to clear their books and try to start over, although they don't know how to start over. So the idea that they're going to roll all this stuff out and I don't see it being a threat to humanity in the way that everybody says it is. I just don't. There's other reasons why I would say that, but that's the main thing. So the net is they're way behind the curve. They just are. And you got to remember too, when they implement these programs in these countries, you're dealing with a lot of bureaucrats and a lot of just people that are incompetent.
Yes.
Bottom line, you know, so who's going to manage these systems and how are they, you know, they're not thinking through a lot of things such as how to sustain a resource base in a country or the importance of having a treasury, you know, that is not in a governance stronghold or any of those things. They don't think like this, right? It's all about command and control.
Yeah.
We're out of that paradigm now. We really are. We're not totally out of it in terms of what we see commercially, but that's not the way systems are being designed at the moment. So
blockchain, you know,
yes.
The public side of blockchain, that was my concern, that can that be centralized after it's up and, you know, so if we end up with a centralized banking system that's blockchain, is that possible?
Yes and no. So I'll skip through the blockchain history, but I'm going to show you something that is really, I think this might be helpful. Okay.
While you're looking for it, I was going to say, what I notice is, you know, China has released their digital yuan, and they started off by giving their citizens free money. And what we're hearing is 80% of the people refuse to use it. It's just sitting there. So the digital
you have
yuan.
To remember, look, you have to understand the CCP, and this goes back to Evergrande bonds. The CCP is going bankrupt. First of all, their banking system is totally illegitimate. Second of all, their currencies are actually tethered to the US dollar. Now, the Hong Kong dollar it has a direct peg to the US dollar, and then the Yuan renminbi has an indirect peg, and I say indirect peg because the Yuan renminbi is actually not accepted outside of that Chinese ecosystem, if you will. Yeah. So their interbank system is not legitimate. Okay, even though they're paying people off, you know, around the world, you know, in terms of cronyism, the reality is the dollar has no legs. Now they are trying to back it with gold and all this stuff, but Evergrande bonds alone have $10 trillion of global exposure.
Yes, and even here in the United States. So if it crashes,
yeah, that's just that's ledgered. That's just what we know about. Now imagine all the off-ledgering activity.
Yikes.
It could be twice that amount for all we know.
So we heard it's Lehman Brothers times 10. Does that sound about right?
What was the question?
No, I heard it's like Lehman Brothers times 10. The amount of exposure.
For sure. So with that kind of exposure, with global debt parity being what it is, okay, affecting real assets in the real estate market in particular, but other ancillary sectors of the economy. I mean, that's the death knell for any sort of a totalitarian regime. I mean, forget about it. So it's also, the other thing to keep in mind, it's also not in China's best interest to crash the US economy, contrary to popular belief. It's not, okay? We are so entrenched, at least at the central banking level, that if they make any huge moves in that way, the whole thing goes down, all right? And there's nothing for the power class to hold on to after that point. So, and we are reaching that point very quickly.
I think so, yes.
I would not worry about a proxy war with China. I think that's just political positioning, depending on what party you align with. I'm an independent. I don't give a shit what these political parties say. I don't care, because they're both
two sides of the same evil coin, in my opinion.
It's the same bullshit on both sides.
Yes.
It's just complete nonsense. We have to divorce ourselves from this left-right thinking. It's a uniparty, and that uniparty is losing its power. They don't have the power that we have. Yes, there are military groups behind this. Yes, we've talked to some of them, we know them, but we know very little about what's happening behind the scenes because we're not supposed to know. It's asymmetric warfare. This is a war on the people. The way the people win that war is they take the power back into their own hands, and whatever private groups are doing what they're doing come in once the general population wakes up and we take back control of our sovereignty.
So as you can see, Gunther does know a lot about the QFS system. He's worked on different parts of the central bank, digital currency. A lot of people that he knows, these are people that go there, they get involved in these projects to see how far along the black hats are and to see how successful they're going to be. He did explain to you that the QFS system exists, but it's not the way people think. It's unfortunate that there's a lot of people within the YouTube arena latch onto these particular subjects, blow them up, making them, something that they're not in order to mislead people. That's what I don't want to see happen. In the beginning, it was easy for me to debunk so many of the things that were being brought out as proof that the QFS system existed. I had debunked so many things. If it wasn't for my own friend who does work for the government telling me that the QFS system is real but didn't have any details, I probably would have continued going on saying that this thing doesn't exist. Gunther is a very credible person. He is big in his arenas. He touches on a lot of different subjects. If you want to watch the full interview, I encourage you guys to go over to Pimpy's News Network and check it out. Gunther is an awesome guy, and we plan on having him back. So I will have a time where I'm going to ask you guys, after you've watched this video in full length, on the other website, if you guys got questions, post the questions, and I'll go ahead and ask Gunther in a follow-up video. Hopefully you guys like this. It was very informative. Again, the video is very long and it covers a lot of subjects at one time. All right. Anyways, that's it for now, you guys, man. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.